So today we're talking about a piece of tech that's not just counting your steps. It's designed to stop a tragedy dead in its tracks. We're looking at something that might just be a turning point in one of the most devastating public health crises of our time. Let's get into it.
Okay, so before we can even get to the solution, you really have to understand the sheer scale of the problem we're up against. Because this isn't just about drugs in general, it's about one specific, incredibly lethal substance that has completely changed the game.
Just look at this number, 79,000. And that's not some decade-long statistic. Nope, that's how many people in the US died from a fentanyl-related overdose in just 2 years. It has absolutely become the main driver of this whole crisis.
And here's why this is so important. Get this. According to the CDC, fentanyl is now the #1 cause of death for American adults aged 18 to 45. Think about that. It's killed more people in that age group than car accidents, more than suicide, more than COVID-19. But what's really terrifying, it's the speed at which this happened. I mean, look at this. In just a 2-year window, from April 2019 to April 2021, the number of deaths nearly doubled. That's not a trend, that's an explosion. So here's the thing about fentanyl. It is ridiculously potent. We're talking something like 100 times more potent than morphine. An overdose can happen in minutes, sometimes even seconds. And that speed, that's what leads to the absolute core of this tragedy, something experts call the solitary overdose. Because it happens so fast, most people who die are alone. There's just no one there to help in that tiny, critical window.
But here's the crazy part, the real paradox of this whole situation. We actually have a miracle drug, an antidote that can literally reverse an overdose and bring someone back from the brink. So, if this thing exists, why are so many people still dying? What's the catch?
Well, the antidote is called naloxone. You've probably heard of it as Narcan. It's super effective, it's safe, and it's easy to use. It even comes as a nasal spray. And what it does is pretty amazing. It literally knocks the opioids off the brain's receptors, basically rebooting the body's drive to breathe.
And that brings us to the single, critical, fatal flaw in this whole thing. As amazing as naloxone is, it has one tiny problem. It can't administer itself. So if you're alone when you overdose, that life-saving spray might as well be on the moon. It's completely useless if there's no one around to actually use it on you.
Okay, so that's the problem, and this is where technology steps in. There's a new concept that's designed to solve that exact problem, the problem of being alone, by creating a kind of personal, automated safety net.
So let's check out 2 ways this could work. You've got something like the Sentinel implant, which is a long-term device that goes right under the skin. And then there's the Guardian Band, which is a wearable, kind of like a smartwatch that you wear on your arm. The goal for both is pretty much the same, to act like your own personal automated emergency room, constantly watching and ready to step in at a moment's notice.
All right, so how does a device like the Guardian Band actually work? I mean, how does it go from just sitting on your arm to saving your life?
First off, you gotta understand this is way more than a fitness tracker. Packed inside, you've got a microprocessor, a battery, some really sophisticated sensors, and, this is the key part, a tiny auto-injector that's pre-filled with naloxone. It's basically a guardian angel, but it's powered by some seriously clever engineering.
The secret sauce here is something called data fusion. It's not just relying on one piece of information. Instead, it's looking at 3 things at once. First, it uses a pulse oximeter to track the oxygen in your blood. Second, it's watching your heart rate for something called bradycardia. That's a dangerously slow heartbeat. And third, a bioimpedance sensor is literally measuring the movement of your chest to see if you stopped breathing.
So when all 3 of those sensors sound the alarm at the same time, the device knows with almost total certainty that you are in deep trouble. But here's the smart part. It doesn't just inject you right away. First, it gives you a pre-alert. It'll start vibrating and making a noise, giving you a chance to say, hey, I'm okay. If you don't respond, then it moves to intervention and automatically injects the naloxone. And it's not done yet. After that, it calls 911 and pings your emergency contacts. It's a full-on automated rescue mission from start to finish.
Now, it would be really easy to think this is just a device for people struggling with addiction. But if you think that, you're missing a massive piece of the puzzle. This tech could actually change how we manage pain for everybody.
Yeah, we really need to talk about what's called the opioid-naive patient. This isn't someone with a long history of use. This is your grandmother after hip surgery. This is a teenager who just got their wisdom teeth out. These are folks who have zero tolerance for opioids, which means the line between pain relief and a fatal overdose is razor thin.
An accidental overdose is a huge risk for them.
And this is such a key point for doctors. You know, right now, a lot of doctors are terrified to prescribe the amount of pain relief a patient actually needs because they're worried about liability. A device like this, it's like an insurance policy. It basically creates a safety corridor, letting them be healers again, letting them treat their patient's pain without that constant fear that something terrible could happen.
So, okay, this is bigger than just saving one life at a time. The ripple effects of a technology like this could be huge. It could force us to completely rethink a 50-year-old conflict, the war on drugs. Think about this idea for a second. De-weaponizing the opioid. For decades, the entire argument for treating drug use as a crime, for locking people up, has been based on one idea. These drugs are deadly weapons. But what happens when technology can take the deadly part out of the equation? What's the argument then?
This really boils down to two completely different ways of looking at addiction. On one side, you have the criminal justice model, which is all about punishment, prison, and trying to stop the supply. On the other side, you have a public health model, which is about harm reduction, treatment, and technology. And you can see how if you make these drugs non-fatal, the argument for that public health approach becomes almost impossible to ignore.
And hey, let's not forget about the money. There's a powerful economic argument here too. It costs about $25,000 less per person per year to give someone treatment and recovery services than it does to lock them up in a state prison. So it's not just more humane, it's actually cheaper. A lot cheaper.
So all of this leaves us with a pretty massive question. Isn't it incredible to think that one small device, just a mix of sensors, software, and a tiny needle, could do more than just save lives? That it could actually be the technological off-ramp for a 50-year societal war? It really makes you wonder, what happens when our technology finally starts to outpace our politics?